Hey guys, it's Alexa, and you're watching Titanic. Are you a scared person? Do you know anyone that has a seemingly irrational fear, or even a plethora of them? Well, if you answered yes to either of those questions, you may have come to the right place. Here, we'll delve into some fears many don't even realize are fears, and we feel we've gathered some pretty good ones right here on this list. Be ready to skip ahead at a moment's notice because we may get into something that may cause your heart to palpitate. And be prepared to be afraid because this is bizarre phobias you might have. Number 12, Alliumphobia. This fear is kind of understandable because of the robust and powerful smell and taste of garlic, but really, it's hard to imagine having it because sufferers of this fear can have severe panic attacks and anxiety when coming close to it. It's a generalized phobia with symptoms such as loss of breath, crazy excessive shaking, dizziness, and at times they fear that they may die because of garlic. It's important to try and treat Alliumphobia because if left to its devices, it could interfere with daily life and all that entails. Number 11, Sesquipedalian. Now, this could be one of the funniest names for a phobia out there, not because it sounds weird or anything, but because it's a very long word that describes a fear of very long words. Seriously, why would they make the fear of long words a super long and confusing word itself? But what do we know? Maybe this was some sort of troll. Obviously, the word has roots in Latin, and when broken down, it does kind of describe the phobia well, but the length of the word itself just makes the whole thing kind of comical. There is another word which also describes this fear, and it's even more ridiculous. Ready for it? It's going up on the screen because I'm not even going to try and pronounce it. It has to be some kind of joke, right? Symptoms include extreme dread and anxiety, and any of the signs of panic that one can think of when a sufferer sees or hears a really long word. Crazy stuff. Number 10, Francophobia. Bonjour! This fear is an intense fear or anxiety associated with France, French people, French culture, or basically anything else French. Francophobia is also sometimes called Galliophobia or Gallophobia, and the cause is, well, it could kind of be anything. Typically, phobias stem from a combination of internal predispositions and external or traumatic events, and a lot of times a phobia can be traced back to a specific incident that happened in a person's life at a young age. Depending on one's level of fear toward the French, they could experience any number of symptoms, which include dread, anxiety, rapid breathing, sweating, nausea, shaking, and shortness of breath. We wonder if they're afraid of the fantastic, delicious French fry, too. Number 9. Nope, not even gonna try it. Let's just read it. This is another really tough one to pronounce. We would actually say it at least once, but we're just gonna call it Hex. Hex is the fear of the number 666. This fear is a little understandable, especially if you're religious, because in Revelation 13:18, it says that the number of the beast, the number of the Antichrist, or of Satan, is 666. Sufferers of this fear feel much of the same existential dread and anxiety that others with other fears feel, and it can interfere with everyday life if left to stew. There's one very famous, very public example of this fear, and it was displayed by none other than Ronald and Nancy Reagan. In 1989, they were moving into a new home in Bel Air, Los Angeles, and had the address of the house changed to 686 St. Cloud Road from 666 St. Cloud Road. It was probably just not best to chance it, right? Although, who knows, that could have made for a really good movie. Number 8, Anoopphobia. This fear is entirely understandable, and we would say it's quite common as well. It's the fear of being single or unmarried, or even being married to the wrong person. In a world with roughly 8 billion people on it, we'd think that almost everyone might have this fear. What if you did marry someone you loved very much, but there was someone on the other side of the world even more perfect for you? What if you're one of those people who has never even left their hometown and got married to someone you've known your whole life and haven't even experienced meeting people outside of your comfort zone? There are all kinds of factors that could play into this in dating and love and marriage or scary, messy things. Are you with the person you're meant to be with? Hopefully, we're not helping you develop Anoopphobia right now. Number 7, Scriptaphobia. This fear has to do with writing. More specifically, it has to do with writing in public. It's a social anxiety phobia that can give extreme anxiety and dread to somebody suffering from it, and they, we don't quite know who they are yet, think that it could stem from a fear of consequences that may come from writing down one's own thoughts, or from someone ridiculing or criticizing their writing in the past. Typically, sufferers aren't afraid of writing in private or of writing in general, just writing in public. It is thought to be associated with graphophobia, though, which is a fear of handwriting or writing in general. Number 6, Octophobia. Well, this one would kind of suck to have considering everyone sees this on a daily basis. Octophobia is a fear of the figure 8. How fitting, considering this list was actually written on August 18th, 2018. Anyways, sufferers of this here phobia feel an aversion to seeing or having anything to do with anything with the number 8. Sounds crazy, but it's totally real. Panic attacks and total dread can occur from seeing the number, and it must make it really hard to look at clocks, volume levels, math tests, and anything else that has to do with numbers. There is no real hard cure, but one can undergo treatment such as counseling, psychotherapy, and hypnotherapy to try and wage war against this fear. It's not as prevalent in the United States, considering 8 doesn't hold much negative meaning, as the numbers 666 or maybe 13 do. But in some other countries and cultures, 8 is sometimes a scary thing. The more you know. Number 5, Genuphobia. Did you know that there's really a fear of knees? If you didn't, you do now, and this fear is called Genuphobia. Not only is it a fear of the knees of others, it can be a fear of one's own knees, or even the act of kneeling. It's thought that maybe this fear arises due to a negative experience or a traumatic event in someone's life that had to do with knees, or even just the simple act of someone's parents wearing clothes that covered their knees all the time while they were growing up. The fear of kneeling could stem from it being a sign of submission, and we all know that there are those out there who refuse to submit to anyone or anything at any time. Sufferers feel uncomfortable or even downright terrified at the sight of knees or at the thought of kneeling, but they may be able to curb the feelings by taking medications or undergoing therapy. Interesting. Knees. Who would have thought? Number 4, Doxaphobia. Oh boy, we think that we know a few people that have this here phobia. Someone with Doxaphobia lives in constant fear and feels a constant anxiety of hearing people's opinions of them. This can happen to children, adults, seniors, and basically anyone else we may have left out. These people are afraid of being those on the receiving end of other people's opinions, and it may seem a little bit ridiculous, but do you like hearing other people's opinions about you, especially if they're negative? The phobia is rare, and those who do suffer from it can experience a tremendous negative impact on one's life, especially in the workplace, because if you can't handle some constructive criticism, chances are you're gonna get the boot. This fear is the opposite of Doxaphobia, which is the fear of expressing opinions, and you know what? We think we know some people like that as well. Number 3, By Phobias. This one is for all you seniors out there, or just adults. Young adults might even feel this way, actually. Basically, anyone who is no longer a kid or teenager may feel a strong loathing or fear toward youth, which we can kind of relate to with troublesome little buggers, at least. Phobia is what you may have if you feel a real strong aversion to or even fear of the youngins, much like many of the older generation do today. Kids these days, and yesterday and the day before that, are just different than what the generations older than them are used to. And this can show through in these people who just can't stand or can't handle youths. It's a real fear, a real phobia, a real pain in the butt, much like the kids they're afraid of. And it can affect a sufferer's life significantly. We mean, there are more kids born basically every year than the previous, and we think that this problem may just get worse in coming times. Number 2, Selenophobia. Ooh, spooky. This fear is a fear of the moon. Yes, the moon that sits in our sky and appears at night and sometimes even during the day. It is also the fear of nightfall and of moonlight, which sounds a little irrational to us and is even defined as so. This fear is persistent on a nightly basis in general, but it reaches even new heights when there's a full moon outside, probably because of the werewolves and stuff. It's a specific phobia and is considered an anxiety disorder, as are a lot of other fears. Most feel serene and tranquil as they gaze up at the giant spheric moon in our night sky, but those with selenophobia experience something very different, very opposite, and it can have a profound negative impact on their lives, considering, they have to experience it every single night. Some even feel repulsed just looking at pictures of the moon or just hearing the words, so we sincerely hope that all you selenophobes just skipped this whole moon part of the video. Number 1, Bibliophobia. This one is pretty self-explanatory if you just take a look at the word, and we are only able to gather something like that because we love reading books. If you don't, you may have Bibliophobia, which is a fear or even hatred of the great volumes in which we bind words, aka books. This can also include a fear of reading in general, or of having to read out loud in public. It can also be specific, and sufferers can be fearsome of particular kinds of books, such as textbooks, children's books, horror novels, or even the risque romance genre. People may fear the stories themselves inside of the book, or the physical books. Some may fear the books simply because of a low reading proficiency, or because of being forced to read at too early an age. It may sound a little crazy considering the world is basically filled with books. We're kind of surprised there aren't more bibliophobes out there. chilling, jarring, nausea-inducing. Was this list any of those for you? Did you see or hear anything that made your skin crawl? If so, you may have a phobia of this video that you didn't even know you had. If this video was up your alley, though, why not do us a favor and click the like button? If you feel we left any good ones out, tell us all about it in the comments. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on any of the excellent new content we put out every single day.